But imagine being sent into a war zone where retreat isn't allowed and no reinforcements come. You fight for months. Entire divisions vanish. The ground becomes a tomb. This place had a name among survivors, the meat grinder, yet most textbooks skip it. Tonight, no soul returned from this battle. It's early 1942. The Soviet counteroffensives after the Battle of Moscow push into the Urzev salient, a bulge in the front line held by the German Army Group Center. Dense forests, frozen rivers, swampy ground, it is a terrain made for attrition. Not movement, the Soviets attack, the Germans hold, the slaughter begins. According to one source, from October 1941 to March 1943, the Soviet side suffered more than 1.3 million casualties, around Urzev killed, wounded, missing, and German losses are estimated at 400,000 to 700,000. The horror of the meat grinder soldiers arrived in waves. They were thrown into frontal assaults across tangled woods and fortified lines. Reports speak of regiments reduced to squads, losses mounting by the day. One historian writes that much of the ground remains unsurveyed. In places the bulldozers shoved up the bodies, but in other places fields were simply ploughed up. Bones and all, the nickname Urzev meat grinder was earned the hard way. Why it was forgotten. Despite the sheer scale of losses, the battles of Urzev remain little discussed. Several factors: the lack of a decisive victory, the Soviet desire to emphasize more symbolic triumphs, and the terrain itself swallowed the evidence. Historians note the casualty records are incomplete. The irrecoverable losses from one period alone were estimated at 392,554 Soviet troops, with total losses approaching over 1 million. Human stories: imagine being a rifleman in those woods, froze, hungry, hearing artillery like thunder, living in trenches under constant shell fire. Survivor testimonies speak of shrieking forests days where every step forward was death. The environment worked as much against them as the enemy did. One account: you would look straight in front of you at some distant birch tree in order not to swerve on seeing what you were driving over in your tractor. Russia, beyond their suffering, outlasted the photographs. Strategic purpose: futility of firepower. Why keep fighting there for the Soviets? Eliminating the salient around Urzev would relieve the German threat to Moscow and free up troops. The Germans used it as a springboard for attacks, yet despite months of assault, gains were minimal. One major offensive. Operation Mars, November-December 1942, launched by the Soviets, resulted in huge losses and almost no territorial benefit. Some estimates list 70,000 killed with an additional 145,000 wounded. Military Wiki: what emerges is a battle consumed not by movement, but by attrition. Many went in, few came out changed, and many never came out at all. Aftermath and memory. In March 1943, the Germans withdrew from the salient Operation WWII, but only after they had bled the region and scorched the land. The cost to civilians was staggering. Towns flattened, villages evacuated, survivors counted in tens. The human toll remains uncertain. Today, memorials in the area reference to the fallen of Urzev. but still many names are unknown. The soil holds unrecovered remains. This was a battle where no soul returned isn't literal, but apocryphal, so many were lost without trace. Closing reflection and hook, the official term victory seems hollow here. When your army claims the ground, but leaves millions of men dead or wounded, is it victory or defeat? The battle at Urzev stands as one of war's darkest reminders that sometimes the worst fight is not for a city, but for survival. If you ever wonder why certain battles vanish from memory, this is why. There are thousands of names never read aloud, uniforms buried under birches, and families whose fathers never came home. We remember the famous battles. Maybe it's time we remember the forgotten ones too.